Welcome to Expedition Self on Om Times Radio with lifelong learner, entrepreneur, and creator of the worlds of Expedition Self, Sam Parado. Sam shares 4 decades of studying, guiding, and teaching how to go inside so we can build an incredibly powerful, dynamic, and validating relationship with the self. Expedition Self is laced with stellar, unexpected insights about what it means to be human. Listen now and ignite your self-development process with Sam Parado.
Well, good evening and welcome to Expedition Self. I'm Sam Parado. I'm live on this Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So tonight we are going to talk about love. One of my most favorite subjects. I just feel like you could study it for a lifetime. You could study it for 100 lifetimes and you still would not land on the single thing that was the most important thing about love, because it is everywhere. Anyway, tonight our show is titled, Can Love Overcome? And I am going to be bouncing around quite a bit and sharing some words of the wise people that have come before me or shared their thoughts on love as we go through it. And there's a little bit of a twist planned at the end, which I often do when I try to take these subjects, is bring them back into, how are they connected to your growth world. Let's see. Anything else I would like to share? I'm on a cleanse. Not that anybody really wants to know this, but I'm drinking. I got it from Owl Venice, and I'm drinking smoothies with butternut squash or beets in them. And so I just feel like I am one with the earth tonight. Let's hope it comes through the show too. Also, the phone number that you can call tonight is 202-570-7057. I'd love to have people call in and talk a little bit about your thoughts about how love overcomes. What I can tell you is tonight, it's not like I'm going to be sharing a whole lot of gut-wrenching, heart penetrating stories. So just so you know, I mean, I think that topic could think that, but that's not really where I had planned to go. Also, our Expedition Self store is open. And so if you go to expeditionself.com and go to the shop, you can click right on there. And there's some awesome new, products that you can, really cool, like hoodies and journals and candles, all to remind you all about how to go inside the self and how to be in relationship with the self. So, okay. So as we open up this conversation, take a big deep breath. Nice big breath. I'd like you to think about love and what it means in your life. And who do you love? And how do you love them? And how did you? Sophocles said, "One word frees us all of the weight and pain of life, and that word is love." So I'm going to share quotes as we go through and then talk a little bit about what I think that quote means. You are welcome to call in and share one of your favorite quotes if you'd like. Let's see. Here we go. The need for love lies at the very foundation of human existence. Who said that? The Dalai Lama. And I think this must be true. Right? In every way, we are seeking love. Like, sure, you might define it as kindness or care or even acknowledgement or appreciation, but all of those things to me feel like love. So yeah, I think I agree with the Dalai Lama. Who am I not to agree with the Dalai Lama? And Kate Blanchett, she's an actress, adds to this validation by saying, I believe there are some things in life you can't deny or rationalize, and love is one of them. All right. So I'm thinking we're all like tracking with this, right? Some things in life you cannot deny or rationalize, but this one gave me a little bit of pause. I even ended up quoting it throughout the day once I found it. All right. And this is from Carl Sagan. And he says, "For small creatures such as we, the vastness is bearable only through love." And so I just want to share with you that it is estimated that there are, I think, 100 trillion galaxies in the observable universe, and that most galaxies are 1,000 to 100,000 parsecs in diameter, which is about 3,000 to 300,000 light years, right? And they're separated by distances on the order of millions and millions of parsecs. And in the Milky Way alone, there are about 51 galaxies in the local group, and in the local supercluster, there are about 100,000. We are very small in this universe, right? We are tiny, tiny creatures. And really what he's saying is love makes it all bearable, right? I think about life as difficult and challenging and equally blissful and exciting and also tragic. And, perhaps that's why the Dalai Lama says what he says, is that because he knows that we are, and that the vastness of the universe and of the galaxy and of the extraordinary infinite nature of our lives, the weight of all of it can only be bearable through love, because it is a weight. It is a weight, right? And sharing it with someone else lightens that load. So in this case, I think of companionship and understanding and shared suffering and empathy, right? Or compassion. So I'm just wanting you to think about love, that with each quote, you probably, if you're like me, new words or new kinds of ways to depict love showed up in your psyche, right? So Mahatma Gandhi, he agrees, when there is love, there is life. Okay. That's an interesting one. That fits a lot more with some of the things I have been working on over my career, right? Where there is love, there is life. We could think about that, right? Like, whoa, so life is love is life. So are you starting to notice how with every take on love, with every quote I share, that there are these different qualities that we associate with love? No wonder we could spend eons studying it and never come to one final sentence that says this is what it is. So you have an idea of what love means to you and what you attribute to its presence in your life and where you note it and how you show it. So this was one that I want to go into more detail about. And this was spoken by Zora Neale Hurston. And she says, love makes your soul crawl out from its hiding place. Love makes your soul crawl out from its hiding place. Why would it do that? Are we all little hermit crabs inside, waiting and watching for the coast to be clear, for the path to be safe, to be invited in and welcomed with a giant hug and smile? Are we all hiding out somewhere? Well, how would love do this? Make your soul crawl out from its hiding place. How would it do that? I hope you are perusing your life as I say that and thinking about where love where love coerced you and enticed you to crawl out of your hiding place. I do think that love, when we know it's present, is enticing and maybe even a little seductive, right? There's a way that our core imperative that I describe as to be one with people. It works from the soul level to keep moving us towards that end. So when love is offered, we feel not just the push, but also that pull to move towards something. Now, we could talk about this from the psychological perspective, that one where people we talk about, like, people are put into our lives to be a mirror of that which we have gone unconscious about, or that which we need to claim and understand and to get into relationship with, right? There's always a psychological kind of way to think about anything really that goes on in our lives, and certainly the person that you love or the thing that you love, right? Because love is not just with people, right? Love, we fall in love with our ideas, we fall in love with parts of our body, we fall in love with our work, we fall in love with each other, we fall in love with history, somebody from history, right? Like some mentor or hero that we have. Like, we got love going on all over the place. But on a spiritual level, I think love goes so much further, and that it does actually speak to the soul, and probably not even with words. And when we love like this, meaning that we give love to someone or something, well, we are then compelled, we're drawn out, right, to crawl out of our safe places and do things we would have never considered doing before. Think about moments when you went beyond your quote unquote typical way of behaving or doing life because the love was so strong. You just went with it and just did it. Do you remember the movie The Notebook? Noah in the Notebook, he says, "The best love is the kind that awakens the soul, that makes us reach for more, that plants the fire in our hearts and brings peace to our minds. That's what I hope to give you forever." That plants fire in our hearts and brings peace to our minds, right? It awakens the soul. So it's not just we're crawling out of the hole, right? We're saying, actually, no. When love is present, we are awakened. So I realize there are times when we circle back around and decide we're not doing that anymore, because the psychological thread and the spiritual thread are often intersecting, right? Asking us to do the growth work that comes with the attraction towards the love space. What I'm really trying to say in there is, I think there are times when we pull away from love. We decide in specifics, I don't want to do love anymore, right? Love is not love is not doing it for me. I'm not getting where I want to go, right? So in this moment, I'd like you to picture yourself as a young child standing in a playground area and looking at this giant jungle gym, wishing you were brave enough to climb upon it, to make your way up there. But you look across and there's a number of other children gathered on the bridge, laughing and chatting, pointing. And they're on this bridge between one side of the structure and another, and you can't figure out how you'd get by them, or whether they'd even let you stand there with them and participate. You're unsure, maybe shy or scared. And then another child in your class, someone you always feel comfortable with, but don't talk to so much, They see you standing there and walk up to you. And with this amazing, warm, dripping with inviting, like, oh my gosh, I see you, right? Smile that seems like it got created just for you. Says, hi, would you like to go up the ladder with me? You know, sometimes I get scared doing it alone. And the next thing you know, you're doing it. One hand on one rung, one foot on the next rung, one hand on the next rung, one foot lifting itself to the next one. You're climbing that ladder and standing on the bridge with those other kids, and you don't know how you got there. You don't know how you got there. Now, I realize we're talking about an action of climbing a ladder, but your soul crawled out. It was awakened. Or maybe it was already looking around and blinking with wide eyes about how can I be in this world. And then that little girl, oh, I'm sorry, I was trying to not have it be a girl or a boy so it could work in your imagination. But that child saw you standing there and wanted to share in that moment with you. All right, when we come back, we'll work with these ideas about love.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
If I could be you,
and you could be me for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
All right, we are back. I'm Sam Parado, live here on Expedition Self this evening. And this is a call-in show. And I'm always encouraging people to call in at 202-570-7057. Also, last week I mentioned that if anybody would like to actually come on the show and talk about life and talk about how to go inside, given your unique experience, all you have to do is write me at hello@expeditionself.com, and we will arrange a time for you to do that. Because one of the reasons I offered that is I just think it's so important that we hear other people do the work, right? Do the work about how to think about going inside and what they can find when they're there, and how to understand what they find. So anyway, the offer still stands. So before we went on to break, I had just told a story, right, about you as a child standing in the playground, and what happened when another child actually saw you and invited you to take the risk that you were at that moment still afraid to take. So my question to you is this the crawling out of your skin for love? Right? I chose a child example, but I think it starts here. When someone sees you and the next thing you know, you're doing something you never thought you would. right? And that there was love present there, and your soul felt it. Now, I gotta say, I don't know why this story is coming up at this moment, but I'm gonna trust it and share it. But I remember a couple years ago, I was watching footage from the Cannes Film Festival, and they were showing the red carpet after everyone went home, right? Like when everybody was gone and it was quiet. And the next thing you know, you see like something on the red carpet in the distance. And then I think they pan in a little closer, and there you see it. This couple is having sex on the red carpet. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word. And, and it's on film. And so for me, it's like when I think about it, it seems to me that is a moment when, I know you could be really quite tongue-in-cheek about this, when love made them do something they might not normally do. Of course, the point I want to make here is that they took a risk, and they were bold, and they broke the rules, right? And they crawled out of their souls together. I know, you may think it's a stretch, but I felt it. Like, I just felt the appreciation of that moment, that there's this red carpet, and it's very famous, right? And they were going to stake their claim on the moment in some very unexpected and unconventional way. I think love makes us take these risks, right? Love, it causes us to learn. And this is such a big thing. I watch it over and over, that if we feel loved by someone and they say to us, I really need X from you, well, then there's a place where we will stretch beyond our borders and attempt to respond to what's being asked. And, there's so much talk about having boundaries these days, like healthy boundaries. And I always have a mixed reaction to this, because I know that we only grow and expand when we love enough to drop our boundaries and our limitations and try on new and different ways of thinking and being. Gosh, and when there's love, meaning someone sees us, right? And we give ourselves over to the hand reaching out to us. We do crawl out of our souls in a little way. And of course, we don't want to miss those opportunities. And of course, at the same time, we don't want to put ourselves in situations where, right, we're taking, we're throwing ourselves away. I think there's a difference, right? There's a difference between allowing love to move us outside of our limited boundaries and the idea of throwing ourselves away because we don't have a sense of who we are underneath it. I've heard people talk about circumstances or events when one of their children, was in the hospital and was really sick, and they were frightened. And when they share their experience afterwards, they'll say, I had no idea how much love I could feel. And how it would take me so far outside of myself in a way that words can't describe. I can't help you understand it, but I shocked myself, right? It's like their capacity to be human was put on one of those old-fashioned torture devices, right? That stretches you in all directions. I know it's not a great image when talking about love, but I think love can help you get through life and carry the weight of it, for sure. But it also stretches you well beyond what you thought you could be if you let it. So when your soul is being awakened and crawling out, remember your soul's mission for you a lot of times is different than the human experience of playing it safe and being comfortable and wanting to know what's going to happen before it happens, right? That whole thing. So does love overcome? Right? If we ask that question, does love overcome? Well, it can. But does it always? No. So why do you think that is? Because we are full of self-determination and will. And I think there are times we turn our backs on the question being answered of us. Sometimes we can't feel the love enough. I think I messed that up. We turn our back, the questions being asked of us. My head was like, that didn't sound right. Anyway, sometimes we can't feel the love enough to overcome it. Sometimes we are so caught inside of our own way of loving ourselves that anything from the outside falls short and is unable to penetrate the prison we are enclosed by. Okay, I want you to hear that last one again. Sometimes we are so caught inside of our own way of loving ourselves, which basically means not potentially or holding on to it, that anything from the outside can fall short and is unable to penetrate the prison we are enclosed by. So love can overcome. It can, but it often requires an intention, right? That's very aligned within the self. It requires some focus and vision for ourselves. All right, well, we'll talk more about that later because I have a couple of other quotes I want to explore before we get there. Okay, this is Julia Roberts. You know it's love when all you want is that person to be happy, even if you're not part of their happiness. Okay, I'm reading this one again. You know it's love when all you want is that person, for that person to be happy, even if you're not part of their happiness. Okay, I don't know that this is true. I mean, it sounds incredibly beautiful and profound and romantic potentially and selfless, but I think a lot of times love means actually telling someone, that's the love, telling them why you can't be happy for their happy, right? Because that's human. And when you expose your humanness, that creates a space for love, right? Love to me is being so real, so honest, both with yourself and with the other person, that you share the humanness that is present, that you don't shy away from it. You don't feel ashamed by it and hide it under a rock. Now, could you take on the idea that you know it's love when you wish you could be happy for them, even if you weren't part of their happiness? I think that would feel like love. That you know, right? You know it's love because you wish you could be happy for them. You want to be happy for them. But then in the noticing that you're not and sharing it, that is love. Now, I'm not saying all of things are not love, but in the context of this quote, I'm just working inside of this. But creating this incredible idealized sense of what love should look like is a setup. And it's a setup that I feel like takes us away from entirely wrapping ourselves inside of love being something that has many sides and many ways to understand it. And that it doesn't only look pretty, and it doesn't only look like this sacrificial, give yourself over, I never look like I'm anything other than giving and open kind of love. You see, you don't deprive yourself of your truth as a way to show that you love someone so much. This only creates an illusion of love. An illusion of love. And it's one that I think may not stand the trials and tribulations that we face throughout our lives, that may not help you carry the weight long term. It may not awaken your soul over time, right? It sets us up even to make ourselves wrong. because we are unable to love so unselfishly and with an open heart, and so be willing to sacrifice and martyr ourselves for other people, right? In the name of love. Ugh. Yeah, no, I don't want that for us. This brings me to another quote about love from Madonna that I definitely challenge. To be brave is to love someone unconditionally without expecting anything in return. Okay, Madonna, let me just talk about this with you and anybody else that's interested in this quote. So that sounds really good. Like, I want that. Right? Totally would like that for sure. And it's not happening in my life. I might get to a place where I try to love someone unconditionally, right? To accept them for who they are, for all the whole package of what they bring. But there is no way I'm going to expect nothing in return. I mean, come on. Like, think about it. Like, I don't care what actions you take, how you behave, the agreements you break. I'm going to love you unconditionally? Well, I could get that because I do personally think every bit of life really is love in action at some level. But the idea that I'm going to want to stay in relationship with you while you do all of that, right? Where you don't care what actions you take, you don't care how you behave, you break agreements with me, right? Right? Well, you do all of that, right? The very idea that I'm not going to want things for myself. Yeah, no. I want to feel a certain way when I'm with someone. I want to be treated in a way that feels healthy and supportive to me. I want to know that when we make agreements, they'll be honored and kept. Yeah, right? I have conditions. And when you agree to be in relationship with me, well, then you're saying that you're committing to those conditions and you're making an agreement with me about that. And I'm doing the same, right? So this idea of like unconditional doesn't include all the rest of that. Yeah, I think we get caught in this trap of making love out to be some fantastical, kind of imaginary, otherworldly vision. And instead of saying, wait a minute, no, love is actually about the working it out, working it through, the staying in it, the showing up, right, for life. So, So here's the thing about the crawling out of my soul piece. If you don't honor the agreements, well, then there's a place where I have a real opportunity to look inside myself and wonder what happened. Where am I? Like, why would this occur in my life? And perhaps I might see something about me that I didn't see before. So becoming rigid and judgmental and deciding that you are all wrong and you are all bad and I'm going to drop the curtain on you. Well, that may be a place. That very well may be a place where while I don't have to love unconditionally with being attached, I do want to pause long enough to fully get conscious of the dynamic between us. I think this is a really interesting thing, right? Because in that space, what I'm doing is I'm really loving myself enough to say, how did this show up in my life? How did this show up in my life? So, when you think about love, and it's an important thing about our lives, right? Because it has the capacity to touch our hearts and open them at times when they're naturally closed. And it also has the ability to, at some level, depending on how we relate with it, it has the ability to send us crawling back into the hole. to crawling back out of the place where we stretched and to see who we were and what we were capable of and what kinds of risks we could take to experience life in the way that we ultimately want to, right? And so this is the part where when you are thinking about love, it is going to take an intention to see love in more ways than you see it, to let the romanticized imaginary version melt back into the background and allow yourself to say, where am I crawling? Where is my soul awakening? And how am I relating to love? All right. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation about love.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive, dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of Om Times Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break
because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing
a job and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org, brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
All right, we are back. I'm Sam Parado, and you're listening to Expedition Self. And tonight we are talking about, does love overcome? And hopefully we're taking kind of a journey around the wheel as I think about love. And also when I found those quotes, I found myself wanting to have a conversation about some of them, which is what we're doing. So, all right, we were talking about this idea of unconditional love and this not having attachments. And I wanted to tell you that I've had a number of women friends, a couple, in my younger years, where they basically said to me, I don't want to be a friend anymore. And in the cases I'm thinking about, I did feel, even at the time, I understood their decision. Right? Because in some way I didn't honor the agreement implied within our friendship. You know, I didn't take it, I took it for granted, or a series of events happened. And so when that happened, there was absolutely no quarter given to me. There was literally just this conversation that let me know I no longer want to be a friend, which actually was a gift in and of itself, because right nowadays people just ghost somebody or they just block them and they never get told what's really going on. But there was particularly a woman when I was 21 who, she was 30 and she had a little boy and she was a single mom. She was kind and thoughtful, and I felt really wise beyond her years. And I was in my 21-year-old dark ages, clueless. Oh my gosh, I don't even know, where my feet are on the ground, right? Anyway, we were working together, and there was a series of events, business events, situations that led to her being let go. And I ended up then replacing her in her position. And, at the time, it just looked like serendipity or, like just life. Oh, look at that. And I didn't understand how I contributed to this happening. Like how she was harmed by my actions in some way, consciously or unconsciously. But this is what I'm talking about, is that she was not expected to love me unconditionally. Would I have liked for her to give me a chance to better understand my actions and their impact on her through dialogue and through her, like a caring, continued relationship rather than just being cut off? Well, sure. Yes, absolutely. But I also can't say that at that time that I would have really known what to do with it. So we could ask the question in that example also, did love overcome? And I would say, no, it didn't. It did, however, set me on a course of learning how to love myself and looking closely at how I loved in friendships. So that's a very interesting thing. Love was at work there, right? It definitely was at work. See, love gives us chances to see things we wouldn't normally see. It's nice. Oh my gosh, it's so awesome. It feels like curling up in a cuddly bed with wonderful squishy blankets and pillows, right? If it's nice, if it's that kind of love that feels gentle and empathetic and is filled with words to help us make sense of something and that are reassuring, right? And encouraging. But a lot of times, love doesn't feel loving at all. It doesn't. Right? And in the case with this woman I'm talking about, you can consider that she decided to love herself and that in doing so, that meant disconnecting with me permanently. So I found a quote from Stephen Chbosky that fits this, in my opinion. Is that we accept the love we think we deserve. We accept the love we think we deserve. And she clearly decided to reject my friendship because she felt that she deserves something better or different. And one of the things that I think is important when we get our heart hurt, when we feel like someone didn't love us unconditionally, or we lose love, is that we get entitled to things. And I just want to say, she didn't owe me more time or more words or more potential hurt for herself. She didn't. There's no unwritten agreement in the stars that anybody owes us their time and energy and attention to help us grow. That's why, in actuality, what she did do did help me grow. So what was going on for her in her life, in our relationship, and how it played out, right, is that she didn't look at what she brought to that experience, or at least I don't know that she did. I mean, maybe she did. Because there really was something about love there for her too, right? And this to me is the love that is valued for the learning it brings. Because in that space, she might have also seen ways of being that were important for her in her life. And this, in turn, might have had her be kinder in how she showed me to the exit. What I guess I'm trying to say is that it's so easy to say something isn't love. But in truth, whenever we have a chance to look and understand ourselves better and to try to understand like the experience of being human, love's present then. Love is present then. So do you think that unconditional love without attachments is ever a reality? Even with children. Even with children. I know a parent will love their child no matter how they behave a lot of times, right? But for the child in the experience, they still believe it's conditional. At least that's what I have found, when I talk to people. That even though they realize later, that their parent was always going to love them. Like they'll say that a lot, right? No, I knew they loved me, right? But in that moment, when the expectation is at play, they are often left feeling as if they don't do what's asked, love will be taken away. When oftentimes it's really relationship or connection or approval or inclusion that's taken away, right? And so all of those kinds of things start to represent love for somebody. So let's talk a little bit about how self-love overcomes. And so I can tell you that my understanding of self-love has only really taken hold in the last 10 years. I mean, really, right? Prior to that, it was kind of like putting on makeup, mostly superficial, tied to a specific event, right? Or specific moments when there was some kind of crisis or disappointment or, extra awareness being brought. I mean, certainly you could say that my growth work my whole life was a form of self-love, but inside of that, there was a lot of it missing, right? A lot of just kind of batting myself around. My question is, I'd like you to think about that, is how have you come to understand self-love, right? And how deep does it go? I do at this point deeply believe that the more we can love ourselves, the more we can bring that love to others and to our ideology, like our life philosophy, and really to our intrinsic, innate way of being. And this is important, right? Because our ideology, I invite you in this moment to think about your life philosophy or your ideology about anything. And I'm going to give you a list like I like to do a lot. Work, money, bank, investment, retirement, savings, politics, polarity, right and wrong, health and hospitals and medical care providers, social issues like homelessness or addiction or success and how you achieve it, education and school and teachers and exercise and food. Your ideology within these topics may not be loving. And I would ask you to think about how your ideas and philosophies about living in the world are tied to the way you love yourself and appreciate yourself and have empathy for yourself. I'm drawing a correlation right now. I'm drawing a connection between how you see the world is connected to how you work with yourself. I often notice that people who do not have empathy for themselves or do not see themselves clearly often spawn and send out philosophies, right? And generate philosophies that lack the same. The other thing is that self-love isn't just taking an action to remove yourself from what you see as a bad situation. Self-love has to do with the way you treat yourself when you don't like something you've said or done. It's the way you talk to yourself when you're embarrassed or humiliated or you feel inadequate. It's the way you care for yourself when you are scared or insecure. It's the way you care for your body and your physical needs. Loving yourself is absolutely the most challenging endeavor you face in your lifetime. Believe it or not. And loving yourself doesn't mean you just gloss over it all and make it sound nice. No. That's not the kind of love we were talking about before. The honest and transparent kind. Self-love requires your depth of honesty and heart, and it requires you to show up with it intentionally. So, St. Augustine's question of whether it is better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all is kind of a conundrum because it is not possible to breathe one day in life and not love. There is no moment in life when we are not giving or receiving who we are and what we bring because of that. We are, with all of our definitions of love, doing it all the time. Whether it's with someone you are very distant from or some circumstance that you just make comments on but have no stake in, you are doing this love thing. And that's why I talked about your philosophy, because I think a ton of love gets squashed inside of people's opinions about all facets of life. And if you want love to overcome all that is happening in your life and mine, well, then you're going to have to examine very closely how your ideas, your beliefs, and your opinions are not loving. And another thing I would like you to ponder as we close out this conversation is how you believe you are loving someone else and whether or not it feels like love to them. I have had literally thousands of conversations where one person is talking about how much they love this person and in what ways, and the other person is saying, yeah, it doesn't feel like love to me. I can't even feel you at all. What would you have to do to actually ask people if they feel loved and want to hear it, and you actually want to hear it? You have to stop believing that you're the most loving person out there. Right? That you just are like all butterflies and wings and, those little flowers that you blow and they blow out. I forget what those are called. Anyway, this is kind of tongue in cheek, but I really believe that we have this rampant investment in being the loving one and seeing ourselves as the loving parent or friend or coworker or citizen rather than me when I had to see I was the unloving friend. Please look closer. If you are trucking around your life, doing good deeds and giving love because you've decided that's what makes you feel good, I would stop and ask them and inquire what it is they really want or need from you. And I would look beneath the surface of your own self-love and see if there's something you're trying to make up for. And so this brings me to really the biggest point of the night, and that is, how are you trying to overcome feeling unlovable by searching out being loved or being loving or being loved? How do you get honest with yourself about this? Because you see, one of the things about this self-love is that it means you have to see where you don't feel lovable in some way. Maybe it got set up a long time ago as a child when you wouldn't do what you were supposed to do. And then maybe the punishment was freezing you out of the family life for the next week. Or maybe you didn't feel lovable because you have taken actions as an adult you're not proud of. The thing is that we see this love, the kind of love that has us crawl out of our souls because we are hoping to find out that we are lovable. And the more vast the container is inside of ourselves that feels unlovable underneath, well, the more it's likely we'll be drawn to external love that may not really give us what we're ultimately wanting, like happiness and fulfillment and understanding. Of course, it's going to give you growth. We always know that. This is what there is to see when we talk about love overcoming. This is the twist I mentioned. Are you looking for love to overcome your lack of love for yourself? It's an interesting question, right? Love is a beautiful thing, and it's everywhere, embedded in everything. But the question of how we go after it and are drawn to it and learn from it and attribute qualities to it, that's a very personal and unique set of bullet points. Oh boy, a number of years ago, I wrote a long excerpt about love. I thought I might try to share it with you. I'm not sure that I really have enough time, but what I would like to say in wrapping up this entire conversation is, to me, if you really want to live a life that's about love, you got to get honest with yourself. And you got to really look at what being human means when it comes to love. Not our imaginary love, not our hopeful love, not the love that fills the void, not the love that we create these tight contracts, right? That have this, sense of either blow it all away and not care about it or control everything. Is that really, in order to have love overcome, it has to be something that you cultivate by being in a truthful and straight conversation with yourself about where it really lives for you. All right, on that note, I will wish you a wonderful week and a wonderful Valentine's Day that's coming up.